Hello, everybody. Welcome to Global Hack Week Data Week. Drop a chat. Let me know you're here, where you're calling in from. And today we're going to be talking about RAG made easy with Gemini. So we're actually going to be showing you some of the amazing features of Gemini API, including the Gemini File Search that makes it super easy to create a RAG pipeline. With that, let's just take a quick look at the schedule. I did send the wrong link earlier. I'm going to send the correct checking link here once more to the chat so everybody can check into the event. All right, and here is the correct checking link. Make sure you check in at this link to get your points for Global Hack Week. And with that, I'm going to show this banner here. Please feel free to ask me any questions whatsoever during this session. This is going to be an interactive code along. Hope you learned something today. With that, let me just introduce myself real quick. My name is Wei here at Major League Hacking. I'm a coach here at Major League Hacking. I use he, him pronouns, and a fun fact about me is I just made a pull request to OpenClaw. So if you have any questions about OpenClaw, if you've been playing with it, I would love to talk with you a little bit more about your experience, and we can learn something from each other. With that, let's head over to the next slide. Here is another reminder to please check into this event. That way we know that you're here and you can get your Global Hack Week points. Now, without further ado, let's hop right into our session plan today. So I gave you a quick sneak peek earlier, but this session is going to be about introduction to the Gemini API, and specifically the Gemini File Search API. We're going to have a quick overview of what RAG is and what a RAG pipeline looks like. And then we're going to hands-on with Gemini API. So we'll get a Gemini API key. We will prepare some documents for RAG using Gemini File Search. And then we will actually go through step by step on how to set up a RAG pipeline. So that includes compiling all the documents. We're going to be importing some documents to Gemini, and we're going to use Gemini to query our documents without really having any prior experience of setting up RAG. So this is completely beginner friendly. So you came to the right place. And lastly, we'll create a beautiful UI for us to interact with our Gemini File Search API so that we can play around with the RAG pipeline. All right, and let me know in chat if you're watching, what is your favorite AI tool? What is your favorite AI model? And what are some of the features that you use? I'd love to hear from you. With that, just want to remind you one more time, make sure you log in and register for this event, and you can check in and get your points. And we can take a quick look at RAG. What is RAG? So let us see. Okay, so you can get a very quick overview of what that is. So you can retrieve information based on a provided prompt, and then this information can then be used for context for the model. So we can actually just look on Google and see what RAG is. So here is a very quick overview of it. We can take a look at this article, also this article from NVIDIA. And in addition, let's take a quick look at some of the amazing charts that we have here on Google Images. That makes sense. So this is a very good overview of RAG. Let's also take a quick look. If you want to learn more and more in depth about how things work, you can click through some of these links here. Here's, for example, a very similar graph and charts on AWS blog, and we also have something similar on NVIDIA's page as well. But we'll just go ahead and click on this picture right here. This is pretty straightforward. Very good, simple illustration of RAG. We don't really have to go into too much detail here, but the idea is when you interact with a large language model, for example, when you're querying Google, you're putting a query to the LLM, and the LLM will try to generate a response. But the LLM large language models is trained up until a certain date. So if we actually take a look at Gemini here, we'll just make an example chat here. Hello, 404. Welcome to the stream. All right, so let's head over to the AI Studio actually, and take a quick look at this app. Service unavailable right now, but that's okay. Let's refresh and do a playground here. So this is Gemini's AI Studio. As you can see here, we have a panel to the right where we can see a lot of the different AI models that Google provides. So for example, Gemini 3 Pro, it has a knowledge cutoff of January 2025. So what does that mean? That means Gemini 3 models do not know what's happened since January 2025. It also doesn't know private or proprietary information. For example, a knowledge base for your internal company, or maybe your emails. So it wouldn't have any knowledge of any of those non-public information either. So it wouldn't be able to answer questions like, let me just try something here. What's a good question to ask? We can say something like, let me zoom in a little bit. What's the relationship between MLH, Major League Hacking, and dev.to, right? We can ask something like that. So I'm going to send it out. It looks like the model isn't available right now, so maybe we'll have to come back to it. Maybe let's try a different model just for the time being. Let's try Gemini Flash, and let's do the same thing. Okay, so the model isn't available right now. It might be because of my IP address, but maybe I can try it on, no, I can't try it on Gemini. I can actually give it an API key, looks like. So why don't I go ahead and do that so that we can unblock and actually try out this app. So let me head over and grab an API key. Okay. And I will open up another window just to grab it. Give me 1 second. Okay, so now I have an API key. I'm going to pop that in. Okay, yeah, so it might be because I'm on my VPN, and sometimes that causes issues. So why don't I pause this real quick and get my network readjusted? Give me just 1 second. I will be back. All right, everybody, welcome back. Let's see, we have a chat here. Watching on both YouTube and Twitch. YouTube is behind by a couple seconds. Yeah, it's possible there's some delay, but also it depends on your local internet connection. Actually, let me turn down the music a little bit. But welcome, regardless, Samuel from Nigeria. Thank you so much for checking in. Okay, so I was just telling everybody about RAG and what RAG is. We were looking at this picture, and we were going to do something very simple here, and I actually just tried it, and it worked. So I asked Gemini a question, like, what is the relationship between MLH and dev? So a lot of you might already know about this, hot off the press. But as you can see, there's a potentially a strategic partnership, frequently hosts hackathon and challenges together, but it doesn't have the latest information. Does anybody in the chat know what is the latest information here? I'm going to turn on something called grounding with Google Search. So what this is going to do is it's actually going to use Google Search to augment its response. And I can ask the question again. What is the relationship between MLH? Okay, I still have the issue, looks like. Let me just try one more time here. Okay, on a new tab, it seems to be moving. And as you can see, we have the latest update using some external data. The model is able to query Google and find out that Major League Hacking has acquired Dev. Yes, just like some of you already know, LLM didn't. But giving enough context and the latest information and tools, it's able to figure that out. Can AI make pizza? Of course AI can make pizza, just wait. You just wait. My open claw can order you a pizza right now if I send a Discord message. Yay! Yeah, thank you so much. So all that is to say that without some type of retriever, it is very difficult for large language models to get access to latest data. So you can see the data source here. It's difficult for it to know your internal company policy, for example, or it's difficult for AI to figure out what type of emails that you get and respond to. But with RAG, AI will have access to that data. So that's why today we're going to go through this workshop. It's going to be very hands-on, code along. We will look at how Gemini File Search API can be a very, very useful tool for you to prepare your documents and set it up for a RAG pipeline. And just like I mentioned earlier, if you have any questions whatsoever, please drop them in chat. Okay, so the first step for us is to get Gemini API running locally. All right, so if we look at some of the examples here, they're all running in Python or JavaScript. So for the purpose of this workshop, 404 will be happy, we will be using Python for this workshop. All right, so the first things we're going to do are opening up VS Code. We're going to open a new folder, and I will just call it Gemini File Search or Gemini RAG Demo. Okay, and just like that, we have created a Gemini RAG Demo project here. And one thing we have to do is create two files, app.py, that's going to be the main entry point of our application. And in addition to that, we're going to create a .env file. And inside here, we will include our API key. So how do I get an API key, you ask? You can go to aistudio.google.com and just click Get API Key on the bottom left. So you can see I already have a couple API keys. And I'm just going to use one of my existing API keys here. but you have to name it Gemini API key. This is the standard name, and you can put in your Gemini API key here, just like that. Just like that. And I will just move this window off screen real quick and plug in my Gemini API key, which I hope works. So that's going to be a secret, and we're going to keep that file closed, and we're actually going to add a new file called the git ignore to ignore the .env file. So anytime we commit to git, we make sure we don't include that .env file. And we can actually initialize the repository while we're at it, just like that. Okay, perfect. All right, next up, let's hook up a very, very simple Gemini example. So you've probably already seen this in another stream, but for our purposes, let's just head over to home and let's start with this quick start guide. All right, so we can copy that example and paste in the code here. And we will change the contents in one sentence, explain the relationship between Major League Hacking and dev.to. Okay. All right, wonderful. So we can try to run it, and all you have to do is type in Python 3 on macOS. Let me zoom in actually, because our stream window is a little bit tiny there. Okay. Give me a thumbs up if this is good, or give me a +1 if this looks good to you. But we'll try it out. app.py and press enter. Okay, so just like that, we got an error message, missing key. We're not using the Google API key right now. So how do we fix this? There are a few different ways you can fix this, but does anybody know in chat? I really need to get that environment variable in the .env file accessible in my Python program. All right, let me know if anyone knows in chat. In the meantime, I can also ask our Gemini how that works. I have a .env file, how to load it into app.py. Okay. And we can click go. Hopefully our Gemini 3 is able to help us out here. So it's looking for a package called python.env. It's actually created 2 to-dos. Okay, and installed the load.env package here, and it's going to run the program again. So I'm going to stop it and then actually run it myself. So I will do something, run this one more time, Python 3 app.py, and give it a couple of seconds. Okay, wonderful. So just like that, we have a message. Major League Hacking and dev.to maintain a strategic partnership. So just like when we tried on AI Studio, it gave us a very similar response. It didn't know that MLH has acquired dev, right? That is A-OK, because we haven't given our AI model any context or any documents. So next up, we're actually going to look through the documentation of Gemini File Search and find out how easy it is to upload some of our documents. Okay, so as you can see here, there are some sample lines of code that we can pop into our application. So the first thing we need to do is find what files we want to upload to the file store. Okay, So this can be, like I said, your knowledge base or your internal company documents. And for this demo, I'm actually going to pull some of the MLH's documentation. So if you go to github.com/MLH, you'll see some repos. So there's the Hackathon Organizer Guide, I feel like will be very helpful. MLH policies, that will also be pretty helpful. So these are knowledge base that we can get uploaded into our Gemini file search. And there's actually a very nifty tool I've heard. It's called, what is it called? Git ingest. Okay. Git ingest is a tool where you can actually grab a URL to your GitHub repo. So for example, Hackathon Organizer Guide, and we can paste in here and do include all the markdown files, something like that. Ingest. And what it does is it will go out, look for all the markdown files in the repository, and generate a single file that you can download very easily. So just like that, we have it. I'm going to click download. And we can actually open it up and take a look at this file. I'll just put in this project here, docs. Okay. And just like that, you can see all the files, and they're all here. Okay, perfect. Next, let's pull the MLH policies. That's another important repo with some of the internal MLH policies. So I will also download that. And that's going to be MLH policies. MLH policies, MLH Hackathon Organizer Guide. And another thing I want to pull in is the news. So if you look at MLH's website, this is the official blog, and there's actually an RSS feed for it. So if we do an inspect, and we can search for feed or RSS, can't find it right now, but I tried it earlier, and news.mlh.io indeed has an RSS feed right here. So this is a feed of all the articles that have been published on the MLH's website. So we'll go ahead and save this as well. We'll save it as MLH News. And one thing to keep in mind is we can have documents of all different extensions and types. If we look on the Gemini file search, you can see all these supported file types. You can have all these different files, PDFs, SQL, Open Document, Excel. You can also have text-based documents like CSV. So HTML, JavaScript, you can see all of them, right? So you're not restricted to just text files. Okay. So now what do we do? Let's make a new file called ingest. Ingest, or upload. Let's just call it upload the docs. All right. So the goal for this file is, this Python file is we're going to go through each of the documentation in our docs folder and upload them to our Gemini file search store. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to go through the examples here. The first line is to create a file search store. So let's create one right now. We're going to comment out some of these things here, and we're going to say create file search store. And we're going to call it MLH docs. Okay. And then we're going to upload our files. So you can see here, we have 3 files, right? So let's create a object, files. Okay, and then let's create an array of docs, MLH hackathon organizer guide .txt. Make sure the file names are correct. News.txt and MLH policies.txt. So those are the 3 files that we have. Let me just look through my notes, make sure we're on track. Oh, there's another one I want to add. That is the Hack Days MLH guide. So let's go back here and find MLH Hack Days Organizer Guide right here. And we'll do the same thing, git ingest, and get all the documents for MLH Hack Days. Okay. And we will add that over here as well. Perfect. Okay. Now let's just, as an example, let's do a for loop. So it's already written some code for us here. Essentially, it is grabbing all the files and uploading to the file store name. So let's actually print that out. Print, yep. And then we're going to do this. Loop through and make sure the operation is done. We'll just wait 2 seconds before each operation. And then at the end, if everything looks good, we can print out a log message that says finish uploading this file to the file search store. I think that's pretty much it. What does everyone think? Okay, I think that's all we need to upload the docs. I'll prefix this as 1. Upload docs, just step 1. Step 1, upload docs. That's more clear. And I'll delete the unused lines here and just try it out. Okay, so Python 3, step 1, upload docs. Okay, so we got an error. Client doesn't have file search stores attribute. And if we go through and look at our code here, it certainly should have. So this usually means the Gen AI package is out of date. All right, so what we need to do is upgrade it. And we can upgrade it by going to our Quickstart guide here, documentation, and Quickstart and install this package. So let's try that. Okay, and then let's run the script one more time. Okay, and this time it still didn't work. Okay, so let's ask our trusted Gemini 3 Flash here. How do I can actually just send it this message? Add terminal selection to chat. Please identify the root cause of this error. Perhaps need to upgrade Google Gen AI Python package. So this is going to send our console log here, the errors, and actually send it over to Gemini 3 Flash model, as we saw earlier. And it's going to give us some information and hopefully try to resolve this issue for us. Okay, it's going to install it one more time. That is the incorrect SDK, I think. All right, we'll give it a couple seconds here. We should probably create a virtual environment, to be honest. Maybe that's what we should do. But let's see if Gemini is able to help us fix this problem right now. Okay, we're going to install it one more time, make sure it's up to date. And it's going to check again. Maybe I should give it a okay, so now it's installing the exact version that we need. Okay, give it a couple more rounds here before we'll just create a new virtual environment. Okay, that's too many steps. So why don't we just do that? That's probably the best practices anyways. So we'll go to git ignore and also ignore the virtual environment that we'll create and click Python virtual environment. Okay, now we can say Python create virtual environment, and you can see some official documentation on this, but essentially you'll run something like this, and then we'll call it .venv for consistency here. Okay, and just like that, we have a .venv folder, and we can do something like source.venv, bin, activate, and just like that, we are now in the virtual environment. And we can check Python version, Python 3.9.6. And if we look at the documentation here, it should work just fine. Now let's install this package, as well as the load .env package, which we'll install after. I think it's just called .env, right? We can look at the history here and see what was installed. Python.env is the package. Okay. Okay, I think those are installed, hopefully. Let's see what happens. Let's first try Python app.py, make sure that still works. So these are warnings that we really don't need to worry about. Okay, and just like that, it worked. Major League Hacking and Dev are strategic partners. So moving forward, let's actually do something here. Let's run the second command. Step 1. Okay. What's the error? Client has no attribute file search stores. Okay, so maybe the best route then for us is to just go to Google Colab and try it out. Actually, I have a better idea. Let's go to repo.new. Let me open up my other browser here. And the repo is going to be called Gemini Rag Demo Playground. Let's call it that. And then we'll initialize it. Here, I'll move that in. We'll initialize it with a Python get ignore file. We're going to call it Gemini Rag Playground and click Create Repository. So for this demo, we'll just use GitHub Codespaces. That should have more support with the latest version of Python. Okay. And once this workspace has initialized, we can actually open it up in our VS Code through the remote tunnels if we log in to GitHub, or we can just use it directly on the web here. So why don't I upload some of the files? Upload, allow, upload. We'll first upload the Python files, and then we will upload the docs folder. Can I just drag it in, maybe? Okay, that's perfect. And we'll do the same thing for the .env. I can't really see the file locally, so let me just recreate it. Gemini API key, and I have that. Okay, perfect. So we have all our docs, and we have our app.py, and we can try to run, we'll have to install the packages, right? So we can see here, we can also create a virtual environment, create a .env using Python 3. Codespaces makes it very easy to create a new environment. We have a comment, kindly install packages with Python 3 install package names. All right, perfect. We will do that. Thank you for the tip there. So we're gonna head over back to our previous window and just copy the commands we ran to install the packages. But I think you have to use pip because that is the package manager we're using. But let's see what happens. Okay. Yeah, pip3. Okay. Pip3 install. Okay, let's see if it works. Another package we need to install is python.env here. So let's do the same. And I think we can do something like pip3 freeze to see all the packages that we have installed. So these are all the packages that we have installed automatically. So we have the GenAI and we have the python.env. Okay, perfect. So now let's go back and rerun the same thing. App.py. Because we're in the virtual environment, it doesn't really matter. We don't have to have the 3. It's optional because we are in the virtual environment on a Linux box right now, Ubuntu box. All right, so we're going to do Python app.py and just try this question one more time. In one sentence, explain the relationship between MLH and dev, and just like that, we have our answer, but it doesn't have information about acquisition, of course. So just like that, we confirm that part is working. So now let's go through the step 1 upload docs and see if this works. And I don't know if it's going to work, so I'm just going to do a debugger, launch it in debug mode. Can I do that? Run and debug, Python debugger, Python file, and see if it works. Okay, it worked. So we have our, let me just go one more. You can see we have a file search store with this name. This is the name of our file search store. I'll just comment it. Maybe I'll create a new file. Create a new file just so that we don't lose it. Create a file store with name. Perfect. And then we'll keep going. It's going to loop through all our files. And it's going to call the upload file to file search store function here. Okay, and then let's wait 2 seconds. Time is not identified. Okay, so I made that mistake. I didn't import time. I need to import time. That was in the example, and I completely missed that. So if you look at the example documentation here for the file search, do I have that still open? Yeah, here. They imported time, and that's a piece that I missed. So let's fix that and then stop and rerun. So looks like we have a new file store with search name. We got a new one. So this is something you have to really pay attention to because every time you're creating a new store, If we don't want to do that, we'll just need to save this so that we can continue to use the same store name moving forward. Okay, and just like that, the first two files have actually successfully been uploaded, so we'll just keep going. I just want to see how that works. Yep. And just like that, the new file, MLH policies, has also been uploaded successfully. We'll keep going. Maybe I'll take away the breakpoints now because we know it works. Okay, and then we'll hit play. And this is going to upload the last file, which is MLH hack days. And just like that, all the files have been uploaded successfully to our file search store. Okay. Next up, we did the heavy lifting. So we had a quick introduction. We got the Gemini API key. We had a little bit of a hiccup preparing our documents and uploading it to Gemini search, file search store. But we were able to resolve it by using the GitHub code spaces to interact with the Gemini Python package. And now we can use our Gemini file search API. The only thing we'll need now is the, let me close this to not confuse myself. The only thing we'll need is the file search store name. Okay. So this is the correct name that we need to use. And this file search store has all our files. Okay. And we can then do something like this. Very, very simple. Notice it looks very, very similar to our Quickstart. The only difference is the config, which includes a new tool called File Search. So we're going to copy this piece of code, go back to our sample code here, and we'll make a copy of the app.py file, and we'll call it step 2, query docs. And this was our first initial question, right? The only thing that we added now, we need to add now, is the config section with the tools. So let's head back and actually just add that piece with the same model and same content. That all sounds good to us. So we'll add config, and that's going to come with the file search store.name. And because we saved the name, we can just pop that in here. Okay. I hope it's going to work. So let's try it out. The same question is here. In one sentence, explain the relationship between Major League Hacking and dev.tool. So let's try to run that. Python 3, step 2. Okay, so looks like we need to import a couple more things. Types, for example. So we need to go back to our example and make sure we're importing the proper types. We'll pop that in here and try it one more time. Okay, we'll give it a second. It's actually going through the RAG pipeline behind the scenes, querying for some of the keywords. It's querying for them directly in our file search store. And just like that, we have an answer. Major League Hacking acquired the developer community platform on February 18th, 2026, and that is today. So how is it able to find that? Like you may be asking, that's amazing. How did it know, right? And we know it came from the file, from the document, but in the response, like there's no reference to it, right? That is a very, very easy problem to solve because we can look at file metadata and citations features. So we'll go through the documents one more time. So we uploaded to File Search Store. You can also import an existing file, upload an existing file and import to the File Search Store. So different ways to import it. You can also have some additional chunking configuration. We'll just use defaults for now. We don't have to worry about chunking. And you can see how it works. So here's a breakdown. We first create a file search store, and we upload the files to the file search store. And then we queried with the file search feature using the file search store name. That's all we needed to do. And we can take a closer look at this picture here. We did the indexing process. We had our documents, the 4 documents ready to go. We upload them to file store, and everything else with embedding and vectorizing the data and chunking is handled automatically by Gemini API. And that puts all the files into a vector database. And so that when users query it, all they had to do was include the couple lines that I showed you earlier to specify the tool and point it to the file search store. Now it has access to the all the files that we have uploaded. And with that, it's going to search by some keywords. For example, in my case, it's going to search probably by Major League Hacking and dev.tool with finding those articles and sections of the files that are relevant to the query that the user has asked. And ultimately, it's going to compile all those documents together to create a final output for the users to look at. You can actually look through the file search store if you want. Here is a method here to look through all the files that are inside the store. We can do that right now. Take a look and make sure they're all there. So let's do a step 3. Check docs. Okay, and for the check docs, we need to get the file search store by name. Oh, actually, we can do a print. Print all the available file search stores, and we can also get the file search store by name. So that's the one we want. So let me delete this. My file search store, and then we will grab our ID from the previous call. And we can probably look through the documents. File search documents. We can print out all the documents in the store. So I think this is actually the line that we need. Let's take a look. And we will run this by typing in Python step 3, check docs. Okay, so just like that, we have our documents. The first document is called MLH Hack Hackathon Organizer Guide.txt. MLH News. MLH policies, and MLH hack date. So as you can see, all those files have been created and they have been indexed. And of course, you can dynamically control what files gets deleted, what files gets updated, and what files gets added. That is super useful, especially if you're working with dynamic data. So as you can see, when I did my initial export of all the news articles on the MLH website, I just downloaded a copy of the latest RSS feed that had the latest articles. But as time goes, maybe there will be new news articles published or blog posts published, and I can easily run a daily job or a cron job that checks every few hours. Has there been any updates? And if there has, let me delete, and reinsert a new document, that contains all the latest articles from the MLH blog. And you can even further add metadata to your documents so that when you read back those files, you can cite the documents properly, like author, year, and other information here. So you can do that by filtering as well as your query. So maybe we only want to query a specific set of files that are relevant to a specific user interaction. So you can do that as well. So that is all very powerful just through the use of a few lines using the Google Gen AI SDK. Another feature like I want to highlight is citations. So everything we talked about previously involve managing the documents in the store, creating the store, uploading the documents, deleting the documents, refreshing, tagging the documents. But on the other side, when users query the documents and the LLM returns a response, we also want to know where the information came from. So for example, in my last example, Gemini told me that Dev has been acquired by Major League Hacking, but there's no reference. Like, I don't know where this information came from. Is it hallucinated by the large language model? Like, they made up something that didn't exist? Or is it actual information from one of my documents? So I can easily do that and find out by using the citations feature. So anytime we make a API request with the options turned on for file search, we will get back citations. And this is called grounding metadata in the response. So I'm gonna move over to our example here and actually create a new one called step 5 with citations. Step 4 with citations. So in addition to printing the response, I can print citations. I'll just print out the whole object for now. We can take a look at what it looks like, and we will run it together. Step 4, query docs with citations. Okay, let's expand this output window. So just like that, this is a little bit difficult to read, but you can see we have citations. And you can see the chunk that it matched, right? It matched actually multiple chunks from the MLH news article. You can see the file title was MLH News. And here it matched the section that talks about together, MLH and Dev will reach blah, 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 combine powers. Okay, so that's one of the sources. And then another segment here is about, yeah, acquisitions, about this acquisition. And there's going to be a Ask Me Anything event and things like that. So through the use of citations, you will be able to find out exactly like which piece of the information, the files that the response came from. Okay, very cool. We also have like a little snippet from the Hackathon Organizer Guide here, which is helpful. Now, let's ask something else. I'm curious, but before then, maybe let's build a UI for this. Okay, let's build a UI for this. So I'm going to use the help of our trusted Gemini 3 Pro model, and we're going to say something like, take the example request in step 4, create a Streamlit application that takes in user requests and outputs a response along with citations. So this is going to take a little bit of time, I think. But Streamlit is a tool. Okay. So it looks like it's trying to, yeah, use the GitHub MCP server. I'm just going to X out of that for now. But Streamlit, if you haven't heard about it, is a Python library and Python framework that makes it super easy to build web applications. You can look through the video here, but all you have to do is import Streamlit, and you can start writing content that shows directly on a web browser, and you can even create interactions like a chat window. So that's exactly what we're hoping to accomplish here. We're hoping to create a Streamlit web app that takes in user request and outputs a response along with citations so that we can interact with it. So I'll keep saying allow here and have it work on this project here. It's going to install all the required dependencies of Streamlit. But as you can see here, you can even create sliding components, all kinds of UI components directly on Streamlit and run all kinds of things. And it's also cross-platform, just like that. There are some constraints with Streamlit, but they make it super easy to build web applications using Python. Okay. And just like that, a Streamlit app has been built. I think they put it in the Streamlit app.py folder, Python file here. And I don't know if it's still running, but it's confirming and making sure everything's working. So let's take a look. All right, so there's nothing yet. Let's wait for our Gemini 3 Pro to do its job. Okay, wonderful. So it looks like it installed Streamlit, created Streamlit Py, and we can run this application by using this command. Wonderful. So let's go ahead and just click this button here and insert this command into the terminal. Okay, let's try one more time. Yep. And let's open it. Okay, we got an error. No module name .env. Looks like we need to import. Oh, looks like we were not in the virtual environment. So let's fix that. So now we are in the virtual environment. The packages should be there. Let's try one more time. Fingers crossed. Okay. Still getting this error. We'll work with our AI here to help fix that. Okay, actually, that's not the full error. This is the full error. Okay, so it looks like that was missing. Let's try it one more time and see if it works. Okay, so that's also not working. We might need to just reinstall the packages that we mentioned. So the package we need is Gen AI from Google. Also got this error. I think we already installed the VNV. We'll close out some of those outdated windows. Yeah, python.env is there. And we'll just install the Google Gen AI once more. I see. So Streamlit is running in a different environment because sometimes it picks up the global environment. Okay, we don't have to worry about that detail for now, but let's just run it and see if it works. Okay, we got a Gemini RAG playground, and we even have a pre-filled question here. So let's click submit. This is very exciting. It's generating answer. It's going to read through all the documents we have in the Gemini file store. Wow, and just like that, we have the answer. Major League Hacking acquired dev tool, and it figured out the source of that information, which is from the news article, as you can see here from MLH News. Now we have this, we can ask it all kinds of questions. So when we initially imported the data, we went through all the MLH Hack Days Organizer Guide, MLH Hackathon Organizer Guide, and MLH Policies. So there are a lot of great information in there. So let me just ask a couple questions, but feel free to drop a message in the chat if there's something you want to know about MLH, and we can see if it knows. So we can ask something like, when should a hackathon apply to become an MLH member event? Okay, it's gonna click I click submit. It's going to generate the answer using all the documents that we have. And just like that, we have an output. A hackathon should apply as soon as possible, ideally 3 to 4 months before. And that is exactly right. So if we look through, this table actually came from the documentation itself, and we have some key considerations as well. So if you look through the citations, we can also see the information. Some of the information came from MLH policies. This table, you can see the table, actually came from MLH policies as well. So it looks like a lot of the file matches were from the MLH policies GitHub repo. I can also ask the question, what is the best judging plan for a 300 people hackathon? Or I can say, come up with the best judging plan for a 3 hackathon. So it's actually going to look through the MLH Hackathon Organizer Guide. Let's see. Let's actually compete and see who can find it faster. So on the MLH Hackathon Organizer Guide, there's a section called Judging and Submissions. There are quite a few articles there, but our Gemini has already read through all of them and gave us back very detailed plan. So for hackathon with 300 people, science fair style judging model, and total number of teams, aim for the number of judges. Traditionally, I actually have to go through this page, look through the documentation here, and look through here. Okay, so 300 attendees. How long, how long is the judging? I don't know. And then plan for 12 to 17 judges. So with this Streamlit app, we can now very easily go through all the documents with the power of Gemini and fetch the most important parts and compile it, and using the power of Gemini, come up with a full response. In this case, a full judging plan. It even has information on scoring, judges allocations, step-by-step timeline. So this looks like a timeline for judging, an hour and a half, looks like. And it even allocated time for orientation and deliberations and so much more. So let me actually ask Gemini to make this Streamlit app look even better. I'm going to pull out something like MLH branding guidelines. We'll use this example. And I will ask Gemini, make the Streamlit app pretty using branding guidelines, using MLH branding guidelines, and I'll give it the PDF file that has all the MLH guidelines. In the meantime, I will stage all the changes so that if anything goes wrong, we can always go back to it. So we can actually go through the MLH branding guidelines together real quick and see what it looks like. So here are some style guide with the logo, with the colors, fonts, and so much more. So we'll see if Gemini is able to read through the branding guideline. So it's looking for all the hex codes from the PDF. It found 20 results. Oh, it's actually looking through the file as well, the files that we have in the folder, but I'm hoping it's actually going through the PDF that I sent as well. If not, it's not a So it's it's actually modifying our query docs.py file and asking, okay, what are the official branding hex codes and their colors? Some of these models have integrated file search capability. I'm wondering if it's because I need to download this file in order for it to use the proper colors. Maybe that's why. So let me just go ahead and download it. Okay. Oh, okay, it's because it's the PDF, I think. Yep. All right. Oh, well, so let's just use Gemini to get the theme. Come up with a detailed theme, design document for a web app. Include colors, fonts, and styles. We'll give it a few moments here to analyze, and it looks like it's figured out all those details. Yep, perfect. So I'm just going to copy everything here and give that to Gemini to update. Update the Streamlit app to adhere to MLH's branding guidelines. I should probably include that as a doc, right? Looks pretty useful. Maybe in the future we can do that. Okay, it's creating. All the theme colors, you can see that they have been created here. Let me close out some tabs. So you can see it's actually gone out and fetched a lot of the different files and even logo image from Wikimedia for MLH. That's pretty cool. Let's wait for our Copilot with Gemini 3 Pro to finish here. And I think it's done. So let's open it up and take a look. Okay, so wonderful. So I think it has changed the colors. That's the good part. I don't think the logo quite worked. Oh well. But at least we can now continue to ask questions. Let me just ask one more question here before we start to wrap up. If anyone has any suggestions in chat, please let me know. I can ask the question like, what are the requirements to host an MLH Hack Day? So MLH Hack Day is a pretty new initiative from MLH. It looks like the model is expecting high demand. Maybe we will switch to a different model just for the time being here. Let's see. Let's switch to Pro. Okay, I've exceeded my quota, so I can't quite use it right now. But let's just do it one more time with Flash and see if that works. I might have used too many tokens today. Oh, let me refresh. One more time. Okay, looks like we have an answer. To host an MLH Hack Day, here are some of the requirements. Apply on the website, venue, using the MLH Organizer HQ, attendance target, 50 people, code of conduct, compliance, event logistics. MLH will actually mail out swag. It will provide some food and funding, and even with some additional support at this email inbox. So you may be asking, like, okay, how did you know all that? Are these actually legit? And if we look at citations, we're able to see the exact requirements that are listed in the Hackdays document. So it even has like specific indexes. So you can see like this segment of the response actually had, reference to this chunk of index. So it's able to match one to one, like, okay, the venue is actually coming from the first chunk that was received. So that is all very, very useful information for us developers to have, and we can display them on the page in a way that is very easy to understand. With that, let's do a quick recap. We can go into Q&A. If you have any questions, please ask me in chat and we'll go through them. But here are some key takeaways. We first learned about the Gemini File Search API. We learned a little bit about RAG, what that does. We compared Gemini model with and without Google search grounding, as well as after we implemented the file search feature, we compared the Gemini API responses with and without the file search enabled, right? We got a Gemini API key. We downloaded a few documents and prepared them for RAG, and we set up a RAG pipeline. So using a few files here in our system, we have a file for uploading all the documents here. And we have a step 2 where we tried to query the documents using the file search tool, which worked like the charm. And we used step 3 to take a look at what all files we have uploaded in the file search store. And then lastly, step 4, we learned about how to get citations, and also known as grounding metadata, to see exactly which files the information came from. And in the end, we were able to use our ChatGPT using the Gemini 3 Pro model, build a very, very easy to use web application using Streamlit. And we're able to ask it questions. It will display both the answer as well as the citations or grounding, what do they call it? Grounding metadata to the user. With that, if you have any questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat here. And also, if you have any feedback about this session about Gemini, please go to this link, GHW feedback. We would love to hear from you. What are some things you learned? What are some things that are still you can see improvements on? Definitely let us know how we can continue to improve these sessions and provide you with the most valuable information and learnings. And with that, I want to show you what is coming up next. Let's head over to the Global Hack Week schedule. IO schedule. I will also send that schedule link in chat. Okay, so this is in GMT, but the next session is going to be at 7 p.m. Eastern, which is in just 20 minutes, around 20 minutes from now. We will have our second part of data structured and algorithms in Python. So definitely stay tuned for that. And afterwards, we actually have a couple more sessions today. This is the last Global Hack Week, day 6, I think. So definitely, you don't want to miss some of these amazing sessions, the last sessions, before we meet again in the next one. So we also have build with Snowflake. We have MCP servers with MongoDB. That's very, very powerful. And last but not least, we have our community fireside chat. So we talked a little bit about that, but MLH has acquired a dev, and co-founders for both companies are going to be streaming live and talking about this opportunity, about this collaboration, about this acquisition, as well as what is to come in the near future. So you definitely don't want to miss that one. This is happening at 11:30 a.m. Eastern or 4:30 p.m. GMT. With that, thank you so much for coming to the workshop. Let me just go back to the first screen here. This was RAG Made Easy with Gemini. Thank you so much, and I appreciate you staying till the end. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out on Discord. I'd love to collaborate and talk a little bit about Gemini, about OpenClaw, or anything. MLH. Take care, everybody.